Hey everyone, I'm back with days 11 through 13 of our Tokyo to Hokkaido road trip. After packing everything back into the car, we got some groceries, a quick breakfast, showered at a nearby onsen, and then my host family dropped me off at the station. From Kutchan, I bought an express train ticket to Otaru. To give me a chance to see Sapporo, the capital of Hokkaido, my host family gave me a day and a half to explore the city while they headed down south to camp at a lake. After that time, we'd meet back up and continue the journey together. At Otaru, I transferred to a train bound for Sapporo, which naturally was more crowded, but the ride was only about a half hour or so. The sprawling city of about 2.7 million people is best known for its annual snow festivals, is home to one of the oldest beer brands in Japan, and is the birthplace of miso ramen. After arriving at the station, I snapped some pictures and slowly made my way to the hostel that I booked, passing Odori Park on the way. In 20 minutes, I'd come to the hostel, checked in, and familiarized myself with the layout. Partially hidden on a main shopping avenue, it was tucked away, but was surprisingly quiet. My room felt like a tiny box, but it was clean and modern and had a lot of natural light, so it didn't feel as cramped. After settling in my room, I ate a late lunch and flipped through tourist pamphlets at the front desk. Luckily, an English-speaking employee was helpful in giving me the rundown of what to see and do. I figured since the day was ending, it'd be wise to see the farthest attractions first, so I headed on over to Nakajima Park, passing an interesting nightclub and a music concert hall on the way. The expansive park was a nice mix of nature and architecture and was situated in downtown Sapporo. I walked past Hokkaido, the only hotel built by the Meiji government, whose first guest was Emperor Meiji himself. I also walked past an observatory for viewing planets and stars, and the Kitara Concert Hall, home to the Sapporo Symphony Orchestra. Because I want to get there in time, from the park I took a tram to Ropeway Iriguchi Station in order to see the view from Mount Moiwa. From the station, I took a shuttle bus that transported us to the base building. The lobby was practically empty when I got there, save for the other tourists I rode with, and after securing my ticket, which cost roughly $13, I waited a few minutes at the ropeway platform for the next available ride, admiring the view whilst doing so. Once the gondola came, our group went inside and over the next 5 minutes took in the amazing view of the city taking shape beneath us. There was a secondary cable car lift in between the two buildings that sat deeper in the trees to emulate a stronger sense of being in nature rather than merely being an observer. In 2 minutes, we'd arrived at Sancho Station and the top of Mount Moiwa with a 360-degree view of Sapporo. In the center stands the Bell of Happiness, where couples can attach a lock with a vow on it and ring the bell, which is supposed to grant them a happy future together. As it got darker, the viewing platform grew more crowded. I had spent a decent time enjoying the air and the view, so I decided to make my exit then. Heading inside, I briefly checked out the restaurant that overlooked the city, which was already closed, and then took the cable car back down to the gift shop. After wandering around the gift shop, I waited at the platform for a few minutes for the gondola ride down the mountain. The view was just as spectacular at night, though I'm glad I was able to see the city as the sun was setting. Once I'd reached the bottom, I walked to the nearest tram stop and made my way back to the hostel. The hostel's location was pretty convenient, as it was relatively easy to find and useful for shopping for food and amenities. I ate dinner around 9:30 and went to sleep thinking about my plans for the next day. The next morning, I woke up around 6:50, ate some breakfast, and then got ready. Since I traveled farther out the first day, today I'd planned to head to attractions closer to my location, planning my route so that I could maximize my time. I passed through the park on the way, snapping pictures of Sapporo Shiryokan, a local history museum. My first stop for the day was the Hokkaido Museum of Modern Art. The entry fee was about $10, but because there was no filming or picture taking, I didn't get any footage of the art itself. I could have researched a bit more because there weren't any English descriptions either, so I couldn't really discern the history or meaning behind the pieces. A bit disappointed with my findings, I headed to Hokkaido University's Botanical Garden next. By the super cheap ticket fare alone, at only $3, I felt I got so much more than I paid for. Though, I can't lie, the warning signs of crows and big wasps made me the slightest bit nervous. Opening in 1886 as the first garden used for botanical research in Japan, it's home to hundreds of different alpine and cool temperate plants. Along with preserving the original woodlands before the development of the city, there's also Ainu artifacts and specimens in the Northern People's Museum located in the park. Nicely enough, there weren't many people in the park at the same time that I was, and despite being in the heart of the city, it was relatively quiet and peaceful. Here, I'd come across a pleasant garden with all different kinds of flowers and shrubs. After traipsing through the garden, I found myself near historical museums, set inside Meiji and Taisho-era colonial-style buildings. In it were specimens of the Japanese Antarctic research expedition carried out around the 1950s. A lot of the animals in the exhibit are native to Hokkaido, like the brown bear, Yezo sika deer, and these extinct Ezo wolf, which are two of the few taxidermied specimens existing in Japan. I spent a few minutes walking around and then slowly made my way to the greenhouse located on the far side of the park. On the way, I passed through the Alpine Garden, which aimed to mimic the natural habitat of Hokkaido's Mount Moiwa, with around 600 plants in its collection. I felt glad that I got to walk around the greenhouse alone, meandering from room to room that housed plants hailing from different climates, relishing in the greenery and peacefulness of the atmosphere. Most of the English only explained which plants were from what region, and as a non-native Japanese speaker, it would have been nice to have been given a bit more info on site, without having to do extensive research. Regardless, it was a really nice visit. I found it cool how there were stalks of bamboo right outside, situated with Northern and Central American plants right before entering the carnivorous plants room. A bit later, I came across some vanilla plants, which I learned are becoming rarer to find in the wild due to habitat reduction. In the next few rooms, I came across a variety of orchids, succulents, cacti, and ferns. After my tour, I grabbed a cold drink and rested for a bit. During that time, a student struck up a conversation with me, and I learned that he was sightseeing in Sapporo that day as well. We decided to go get lunch and tour some of the sites together, the first being the former Hokkaido government building, which was built in 1888. He treated me to some miso ramen for lunch, with toppings like corn and butter being special additions compared to Tokyo ramen. We passed by the Olympic marathon setup that would take place in a few days. In being in Japan with its borders closed, it felt so special to see up close what most of the rest of the world was seeing on TV. Next, we took the subway and headed to Hokkaido University's museum to check out their exhibits. Opening in 1999, the museum displays the findings of the university in order to educate the students as well as the public. In one room were all kinds of dinosaur fossils and specimens, and in the next were various rocks and other science-related displays. In the entire museum alone were about 4 million different types of specimens. In the gift shop, you could buy Ainu woodwork crafts, flowers immortalized in clear cubes, and simpler souvenirs like postcards, keychains, and cool rocks. On campus, we passed by a bust of Dr. William Clark, one of the founders of the university, who who was a proponent in propelling the college to becoming one of Japan's 7 national universities. We took the train back to Sapporo Station and made our way to the 482-foot-tall TV tower. I quickly fell in love with the TV tower's mascot, which was a miniature version of the tourist attraction, with a wispy mustache and a radio antenna on top of his head. My friend was nice enough to pay for my ticket, which was roughly about $5, and thankfully at the observation deck there weren't a lot of people since we were viewing the city during the day. We could see down onto Odori Park and the Olympic marathon preparations that were blocked off, view the expansive range of Mount Moiwa, where I'd been a day earlier, and the sprawling city of Sapporo. Similar to other towers, there's a shrine to make donations and pray for loved ones and business or exam success, as well as the sky shop to buy souvenirs to take home. Due to its central location and it being in the famous Odori Park, the radio broadcasting tower is arguably Sapporo's most iconic attractions. After bidding my new friend farewell, I walked around the park a bit, eager to rest after a long day of sightseeing. I chilled on a bench, taking in the laid-back atmosphere of the city, watching with interest at the dancers and skateboarders honing their skills. Interestingly enough, I had another impromptu meeting with an Olympic volunteer who chatted with me while he was on break. A bit later, I went back to the tower for souvenirs and presents, and later headed back to the hostel. On the way, I got a crepe as a late-night snack and ate it in the hostel lounge. Before bed, I journaled my thoughts about my day, wishing I had just a bit more time in such an awesome city. The following morning, I had a yummy breakfast at 7 and then cleared out of my room by 10:45. After some quick shopping, I headed to the Sapporo Clock Tower, meeting the same Olympic volunteer again by chance on a street corner. While a historic landmark of the city that was built in 1878, I found the clock tower to be mildly interesting, but snapped some photos anyway. I stored my luggage at the station and then decided to rent a bike to sightsee, but 5 minutes in it started raining. I'm thankful the rental employee was nice enough to give me a refund. For lunch, I hung out at a restaurant for a bit and then headed to Shiroishi Station, where my host family picked me up. I found Sapporo to be really cool as it was a good mix of nature and urban areas, and it had a big city feel but wasn't as overwhelming as Tokyo. That concludes days 11 through 13 of our road trip. I appreciate those who watched until the end and really hope that you enjoyed. Feel free to like this video, comment your thoughts or questions, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. In my next video, we check out the northernmost zoo in the country, see the gorgeous flower fields in Bie, and then head to an onsen hotel in Furano. Thanks again for watching.